Time to rock and roll. As I'll say a prayer for Elizabeth tonight, I don't know what that means, but she's going to need it. Babysitting the kids. Yeah. Broke her in easy last week. Just let her have one kid. Tonight it's on. All right. What was the name of the rock? I'm not talking about Dwayne Johnson. What was the name of the rock that Moses split for water? Horeb. Do we know where it's possibly at? Yeah. We actually saw a picture of it. You actually have imagery of the rock. Who was standing in front of the rock when it was split? Y'all remember? Yahweh Elohim. He stood in front of the rock, remember? In the scripture it says, he stood in front of the rock and Moses split the rock. If you recall, well, there may be a picture. Maybe we can find it here. No, I'll find it here. Rock well, that's playing with danger. So this is the rock that we're speaking of right here. And we see actual waterfall from this in the archaeological remains of this rock. Do we know this is 100% it? No. Is it highly likely? Yes. So that's really super cool. And what we saw is that we are at the point where the Israelites have left. After they came across the Gulf of Aqaba, they went to the springs of Elim, then they went to Marah, and then they went to Rephidim, and now they're moving to the mountain of Jabal Machlah, the mountain of Moses, the mountain of God. Jabal Machlah is the modern day term that is phrased for this place in modern day Saudi Arabia. And so that is where we need to make sure we put ourselves tonight. And I want you to, whatever way you can relate to the scripture, I read a book this week by a gentleman called Ted Decker. Have y'all ever read any of his writings? He writes a bunch of spiritual related kind of books, and he was writing a book about eternity, and he was relating it. And Ted in the book said to the little girl, I need you to put yourself in the place of whoever you can most often associate with in this story. And so I would ask you to do the same tonight. Are you Aaron? Are you Moses? Are you one of the slaves that has come out of Egypt? You know, who are you? And I need you to put yourself in that role tonight, because as we enter the scripture tonight, you're going to enter in such a way that I need you to experience the base of Mount Sinai like they would have. And so we have traveled through the desert now for approximately how many months together as Egyptian slaves being freed? We've been on the run for 3 months. That's about how long we've been in the desert. And so when we get to the base of Mount Sinai, God is going to have us camp just off from it for almost a year. Have y'all ever, in my Feltboard Sunday School, we stayed at the base of Mount Sinai for a couple of days, and then we started wandering again. In Scripture, we stay at the base of Mount Sinai for almost a year. Why we get the tabernacle built, why Moses continues to talk to God, why we build the golden calf, why 3,000 of us get slaughtered by the priest. You know, there is a year, that this time period that now we're working with. So we've been 3 months on the lamb, and we're now, we've complained about water, and God has given us water. We complained about food, and he gave us what in the morning? Manna. We had to scrape it off the earth. And then he gave us what by night? Quail by night. And so now we're eating the quail, and we're in the middle of this kind of terrain. You see that? Most people, somehow in my little mind growing up, whenever I looked at the terrain that they were in, this is the imagery that I had. This is imagery from relatively modern times, relatively speaking. But the imagery that we're actually dealing with is this, is what they were living in. Does it look dramatically different to you? Like crazy different to me, right? I'm like, holy cow, there's like nothing there but rocks and dirt. But yet in my mind's eye, this is what I'm left with. Yes, Foster? They say it's not the Mount Sinai we're talking about here in Saudi Arabia. They put it somewhere on the other side of the Gulf of Aqaba. They don't know, there's not a rock that they've established there. Correct. And so here we are. We're at this place that we got to get this picture out of our head, and we got to get this picture in our head. Now, let me give you this sort of hint real quick. This is an image of the actual altar at the base of Jabal Maqla today. Okay? This is the literal image. And we'll go into this here in just a minute. These are inscriptions on the side of it. But this is the base of the altar of an uncut stone. And so we're going to get into this in Scripture tonight. All right. So tonight what we're going to see is God establishing a priesthood. And that's going to be one of the key things that we focus in on. And we're going to actually hyperlink into the New Testament, and then we're going to come back to the Old Testament. And I hope tonight you go, I've never read 1 Peter like that. I hope after I show you tonight you go, no wonder Peter thought of that verse. No wonder that was on his mind. So let's get started in chapter 19. We're at the base of Mount Sinai, and we're getting ready. Now, let's be clear. In Sinai, at the base of Jabal Maqla, which is the name of the mountain, there is no place for 1 million people to camp. So if you've tent camped before, I grew up tent camping with Mama and Daddy. It doesn't take a whole lot of place to tent camp, right? But I don't care how many tents, or if you want to call it a refugee camp or whatever you want to think of in your mind to get that image in your mind, 1 million people don't camp in a little spot a little bit bigger than the property that we're on right here. For 1 million people to camp, they have to have a huge area to even camp in. Okay? And so at the base of Jabal Maqla today, it's not a gas station, but there's a block hut that you can buy drinks at. But it's not very big, okay? And just beyond Jabal Maqla at the base, there are 2 foothills that stem, and there's a valley that goes in between them. And when the valley goes in between them, it opens up just on the other side of that valley off the face of Jabal Maqla to where there's a large area that 1 million people could camp in, okay? So if we're camping together, 1 million of us, we can see the mountain every day. And so whenever we read Scripture tonight, I want you to think, I can see the mountain just between these 2 hills, these 2 foothills that are opened up, and I can actually see the mountain that's out in front of me, and I can see that massive, massive altar. We're talking about that altar is probably every bit of 10 foot tall on top of a stone piling. So just to give you sort of a perspective of what we're dealing with here. Chapter 19. In the 3rd month, after the Israelites went out of the land of Egypt. So see, again, we see this timeline. Remember, how many days ago, last week, we saw them fight who? Who did they have a hand-to-hand combat fight with? The king of the Amalekites, Amalek. And they fought the Amalekites, and the Amalekites were descendants of who? Esau. Come on, y'all. Let it kick in. And so they were descendants of Esau. And so now what's happening is that the 2 brothers are essentially fighting against one another, right? Who are the 2 brothers? Jacob and Esau. They have fought against one another. Jacob's tribe, through 430 years of lineage, has overcome the Amalekites. and they expel the Amalekites, and they pretty much wipe them out. And then now they're 15 days after that fight. You got me? 15 days after we just got our swords cleaned off from stabbing all of our kinsmen. You with me? And so here we are on this day, 15 days after the fight with the Amalekites, they came to the Sinai desert. And they set out from Rephidim, and they came to the desert of Sinai, and they camped in the desert, and Israel camped there in front of the mountain. What mountain? Jabal Makla, the mountain of God. That they're camped in front of Mount Sinai as we know it, okay? And Moses went up to God. Let's transfer over and let's look at what this mountain, this is the altar. Let me see if I can get us to an image of, that's in front of it. Hold on. See if I can find you a good picture. Nope, not there. Jabal Makla. Okay, you see the image of the mountain in the background with the tall peak? You notice what color it is? Burnt. That's the mountain that we're looking at, okay? We're looking at that mountain right there. And so as we look at this, and Moses went up on top of that mountain, and how old is Moses? 80 plus years old at this point. And we don't know. 80 plus years old, he climbs to the top, and this is not some, we're going to go to the top of the hill down here at Bald Knob over in Wetumpka. It is much higher, okay? And Moses climbs this mountain. And God meets him there and says, "Thus you will say to the house of Jacob, and you will tell the Israelites, you yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I bore you on eagle's wings, and I brought you to me." What was the purpose of the Israelites leaving Egypt? What did they tell Pharaoh they were supposed to go do? Worship and sacrifice. They were supposed to worship and sacrifice to God at his mountain, is what they told Pharaoh. Remember? And so now they're here 3 months later, and God is speaking this to Moses, and he says, you yourselves, all of you have seen. Now, this is a one-on-one conversation right now. And now, if you will carefully listen to my voice and keep my covenant. What covenant, God? What covenant are you talking about? What's the primary covenant that exists from the time of Jacob? What is the male people supposed to do? Circumcise their children. And now he's going to put other covenant requirements around it. If you'll keep my covenant, you will be a treasured possession for me out of all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. That's kind of cool, isn't it? Hold on. If I'm in covenant with you, and now let me ask you this. A covenant is actually establishing, we don't use the word in these ceremonies today, but in our modern terms, where do we most oftentimes use a covenant with another person? A wedding. Who said wedding? It's a wedding. I don't know if you've ever been taught this before. If you have, then great. If you haven't, I hope it's a revelation for you tonight. I hope it's an apocalypse for you tonight. What is happening on Sinai is a wedding between God and his chosen possession, the people. Literally, what we are seeing is God is cutting a marriage covenant with these people. And that is what is occurring. That should be significant to you if you've never thought about it in that way before. God is making a promise contingent on the behavior of the Israelites, though. Whenever God met Abraham in the desert in the book of Genesis, did he put a contingency on Abraham other than circumcision? He said, I will make you greater than the stars. Remember that? I will make your descendants greater than the stars. You will not be able to count the number. Here, though, God begins to say, I expect something different. And so, what imagery does this begin to bring to mind, this treasured possession of someone? What does that make you think about your relationship as an Egyptian slave, an Israelite being freed from slavery, You are a possession of God's. What imagery does that give you as a slave? I'm back a slave. I am his. I know what, do you understand what being owned by someone means if you're an Israelite who just escaped slavery? Yes, very much so. I understand possession of humankind. Do we disagree with absolute slavery today? Without a doubt. Does God condone slavery? No, he does not. But in the context of the book that we're reading and studying together, we have to acknowledge that slavery is what they came out of. And now what we see is this covenant relationship being established, but they are the possession of God. Now, possession has both a negative connotation and it has a positive connotation, right? I love the positive connotation of I am God's, which means what? Nobody else can take me. You can say what you want to, but he is mine. You know, Joey, even though he doesn't own Brandon, his son, Brandon is the possession of Joey and Jeannie from a relationship standpoint. Nothing will take him out of y'all's hands, right? And so that's the kind of thought we should have about this, is it's like that possession of they are mine. They are important to me. And if it's a possession I have as a human worked for, then I will establish more importance to them over other nations. Do you see that? And God is setting that apart here. So I want you to look for just a second in 2 Peter with me here, and I spliced the verses in here, and I want you to look at the hyperlink that occurs. Do you understand what I mean by hyperlink? What I mean by that is how the Old Testament is in the New Testament reflected, and if we don't connect the two, we don't get the full meaning of the New Testament verses, because we must understand the Old Testament. Does that make sense? Okay? 1 Peter chapter 2, here we go. Therefore, ridding yourselves of all malice and deceit and hypocrisy, envy, and all slander. What does that kind of sound like to you? What are we about to study in Exodus? What commandments are we about to study? The 10 Commandments. Did Jesus take the 10 Commandments and amplify them way past what Judaism originally meant? Jesus said, if you look at a brother with anger, if you look at someone with anger in your heart, you have already done what? Murdered. Hold on. But doesn't the 6th commandment say thou shalt not kill? Do you see the overlay that we're doing here? Do you see what Peter's doing? He's taking what Jesus has taught him, and now he's overlaying it on the covenant. This is like super cool, y'all. Therefore, ridding yourselves of all malice and all deceit and hypocrisy, envy, and all slander, like newborn infants, long for the unadulterated spiritual milk, so that by it you may grow up to salvation. Who did God save from Egypt? Do you see it's like overlaid. Like it's right on top. It's like that biology book you had in high school that had the transparency and the nervous system was laid on top of the skeletal system. That's like what we're looking at here. And you yourselves, verse 3, if you have tasted that the Lord is kind, you've seen everything that came out of Egypt. You see that? If you've tasted that the Lord is kind, to whom you are drawing near, you're getting close to the base of Mount Sinai. Do you see that overlay? It's like so cool, isn't it? A living stone rejected by men, but chosen and precious in the sight of God. A stone? The mountain. Do you see it? It's like so cool. And you yourselves, as living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house. What kind of house did they build in the desert? The tabernacle. You yourselves are being built up as a spiritual house for a holy priesthood. And what in the Old Testament did God say? I am separating you aside to be a kingdom of priests. A holy priesthood to offer up. What were they told to do in the desert? What did they have to do in the desert? Sacrifice. To offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ, for it stands in Scripture. Behold, I am laying in Zion a stone, a chosen and precious cornerstone, speaking of Jesus here, and the one who believes in him will never be put to shame. It's like, you see, we're just connecting the mountain. God is literally connecting the Old Testament and the New Testament to one another. Have y'all ever seen this before? Am I just barking up the wrong tree here? Or I just want to make sure y'all, if I'm saying it and you're like, Chad, I don't follow, please say, Chad, say it another way. Therefore, because Jesus is this precious stone, the honor is for you who believe, you precious possessions. But for those who refuse to believe, the stone that the builder rejected, this one has become the cornerstone and a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense. You say, well, what's the stone of stumbling for those in the desert? Were there those who didn't believe, even in the desert? We're going to read about it here in just a few minutes. Who stumble because they disobey the word. What did we read last week? What was God doing to the people in the desert? He was doing one specific word, and I recommended you go watch a video. He was doing what to them? Testing them. Do you think God is through testing humankind? No. Tonight, he is not done testing humankind. Today, in Chad Smith's life, having a bad day at work, he is not done testing humankind. Do you understand? But you are a chosen race. Oh, hold on. That sounds a lot like possession. A royal priesthood. Whoa, that's like directly connected. Do you see that? And a holy nation. That's the exact term he used for them. A people of God's possession. What? So that you may proclaim the virtues of the one who called you out of darkness and into his marvelous light. What were they supposed to do whenever they came into the promised land? Expel the evil. To proclaim the light in the evil place. I'm like, Lord, this is so cool. Who once were not a people. You were slaves. You did not have a master that, like me. You were not even a people. You were just slaves. But now are the people of God, the ones who were not shown mercy, but now are shown mercy. Were they shown mercy by being extracted from Egypt? Absolutely so. Is that not so cool? Now, let's go back to Exodus. But you will belong to me as a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. This is back in Exodus. Is that not? Okay, so is it just me or is it? Okay, I'm like mega geeking because these are the words that you will speak to the Israelites. This is God still talking to Moses. He's not even through with it yet. So look, and Moses came and he called the elders of the people together. Hold on 1 second. Who did he appoint? What happened last week when Jethro showed up? 15 days ago, 2 weeks ago when Jethro showed up in Scripture. Jethro told Moses, you got to bust this responsibility up. You can't keep judging the people and having a line out the front like at Six Flags, 15 minutes from this point, waiting there for these people to come up and be judged. You got to bust this up into commanders and commanders of commanders and all these kind of people, right? Y'all remember what I'm talking about? Who do you think the elders are? Those judges. Does it not make, the wisest, God told Moses, Jethro told Moses, go find wise people. Who are the wise people? It's usually the older people, not us stupid young people, And you got these wise older people. So who are the elders in the tribe? The older people. And he placed before them all these words. Moses comes down off the mountain and he stands before the elders that he has his staff meeting with every week. Do you work at work and you have your stand-up staff meeting or whatever, and everybody comes in, it's the direct report, and you all have your little huddle right quick, and Moses comes down off the mountain, he says, it's staff meeting time, set your calendars, we're going to meet tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. No, he came down off the mountain and said, get everybody right now. And the staff come up and he says, I just got back from the big man. We're going to have a talk real quick because he told me some stuff. We're going to get out of the way right now. I'm not sleeping on this. I'm just going to tell you what he told me. That Yahweh had commanded him. And all the people together answered and said, hold on. 1 million people are listening? No. The representative of the million people. The people who are responsible for the million people. answered and said, all that Yahweh has spoken to you, Moses, we will do. It's like being voluntold by your wife, man. I just wanted to let you know. I told him that you would be there tomorrow morning to hand out. Oh, well, I appreciate you letting me know, baby. You were voluntold. And that's what the elders just did to the million people. The elders just voluntold all them. Y'all gonna follow God. We've already decided. Just get in line, and this is how it's gonna be. Eat your quail, shut up, and come on. And Moses brought back the words of the people to Yahweh. So hold on, what did Moses do? Back up the mountain. Can we get an escalator? Please. Can I holler? I know you got big ears. Can I please holler from the bottom? Nope. Come here. He goes back up the mountain. And Yahweh said to Moses, they're up at the top of the mountain again. Look, I am going to come to you in a thick cloud. So what's not on the mountain yet? There's no thunder, there's no lightning, there's no fire yet. In order that the people will hear when I speak with you and will also trust in you forever. Ooh, now that's responsibility. That's major, major responsibility. Do we have any question why in Judaism, based on this scripture alone, that Jews, whenever they think of Moses, they're like, hey, who's the three greatest men? It's Moses. It's Elijah. Remember? You know, these are the dudes. You know, these are the great ones. And Moses told the words of the people to Yahweh. He said, let me tell you what's going on. So, see, I see more than an answer of yes hidden in here somewhere from these elders. It seems almost as if the elders of each tribe had something unique to who they were being shared, what they were sharing in response to God. Notice God is doing this so that people will trust in Moses as the prophet. God is giving Moses the capability to lead these people on his behalf. You see that? God is exchanging that privilege with him. And Yahweh said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. Get your Saturday bath. That's essentially what he's saying. Y'all go get cleaned up. You fixing to come to the mountain. Get yourself cleaned up a little bit. Y'all, we cannot escape the fact that they're struggling to find drinking water. And they need water for their animals. We've been on the run for 3 months. When we got to the springs of Elim, I bet a few people started to jump in. They said, no, you wait. You smell horrible. And I want to get a drink first. But here God is literally saying, get yourself, wash your clothes. Now, this is not a proclamation. I want to be clear. Because we had some people that we knew that said, if you come to church on Sunday, you need to have your tie on. You need to have your jacket on. The girls ought to have the skirts on. You ought to wear your Sunday best when you come to church. This is not your verse. This is not what that verse means. You are crazy if you are using this as your verse. Come to church. Don't worry about what you got on. Just make sure you ain't Adam and Eve, if you know what I mean. Just show up. That's all. I'll share with you. One time we were down at the little church next to the food outlet, and we were in the middle of church, and here we are in church, and this girl walked in, and she had on a skin-tight, bedazzled Playboy bunny on her shirt, and she had on Hoochie Mama shorts. You know what I mean by Hoochie Mama? She had them shorts, and it was a skirt. It wasn't shorts. It was a skirt. And she come walking in, and I was preaching full time at that point, and I leaned over and I stabbed one of the elders in the ribs. I said, hey, check that out. We back in business. We got sinners coming to church. Just show up, baby. That's all I'm wearing. I don't care what you wear as long as you got something on. You see what I mean? And that's what we're trying to look at here. I'm not kidding. It literally, that was what she was. I'm not joking. There's no exaggeration. It was a bedazzled Playboy bunny on her top. They must wash their clothes. They must have been sure enough stinking. And they must be prepared for the third day. The third day? Day 1 and day 2, get them ready. You got a lot of people to get a bath. You got a lot of people to wash clothes. Tell them to get busy. Because on the third day, Yahweh will go down on Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. How will Yahweh go down on Mount Sinai? What did he say he was going to do? Cloud. And you must set limits for the people all around. Put orange cones up so everybody knows. Guard yourselves against going up to the mountain and touching its edge. Moses, that's a huge mountain of rocks. Which rocks are off limit? You see what I mean? He's saying put a boundary up. Anyone touching the mountain will certainly be put to death. When in the New Testament are people put to death for touching something? When the Ark of the Covenant, when they go to steady the Ark of the Covenant and they put their hand on it because the priest stumbled with it, and the people that touched it immediately, boom, they drop. Y'all remember that? Okay? Do you see? Holiness has, you step inside the presence of holiness and you break that boundary, it's serious money. Okay? Yes. Sir? We don't know yet. It's not yet. Because all that's descended right now, yeah, in a few minutes we'll get there. I was leading you up to it. Not a hand will touch this mountain because he will certainly be stoned or certainly be shot. Shot? They got 22 rifles? Shot by what? Where have they gotten weapons from? Come on. The Egyptians and the Amalekites. We have plundered weapons. You say, how do you know that they've got bows and arrows? Scripture tells us. They will be shot. What else are they going to be shot with? A slingshot? No. We know they used, the throwing rock like that, David and Goliath, but shot. Whether an animal or a man, don't let that wild dog you got, that little yapping Pekingese, run up there to that mountain, because the minute it touches that mountain, that Pekingese is going to die. He will not live. At the blowing of the ram's horn, which is known as the shofar. Have y'all seen a shofar? If you haven't, I'll bring one night and blow it for you. It's an amazing sound whenever you hear the shofar blow. When you hear that shofar blow, at the blowings of the ram horn, they may go up to the mountain. It was the signal. The bell's rung. You can come on. And Moses went down from the mountain to the people. And he consecrated the people. Get bathed. Wash your clothes. In 3 days, we got to be ready. And they washed their clothes, and he said to the people, be ready for that third day. Do not go near to a woman. I ain't going to say nothing else. No, for whatever reason, intercourse with a woman, having sexual relations with a woman was like awful. It made dirty. I'm just reading what it says. Okay, it's not meaning don't go up and high five your wife or give her a smack on the lips or something like that. It's saying don't lie with her. Okay, and Moses brought the people out from the camp to meet. Hold on. Sorry, 16. And on the third day, when it was morning, there was thunder and lightning, and a heavy cloud over the mountain, and a very loud ram's horn sound. Where's the ram horns being sounded from? Up on top of the mountain. Whenever Jesus comes back, what are we told will blast? That's cool. That's really cool. Y'all get that? We're not talking about B.B. King or whoever that guy was. Who was the guy that had the big puffy cheeks when he blew the horn? Louis Armstrong, thank you. I thought he was the king of France. No, you're talking about Louis. Oh, sorry. So Louis Armstrong, it ain't Louis Armstrong playing the trumpet. We're talking about shofar. Ram's horn is blowing from, it's originating from where? From the Shamayim, the heavens. That's the Hebrew word for heaven. It's originating from the Shamayim. And the ram horn is blowing out of heaven. And whenever Jesus comes back, guess where the ram horn is going to be blowing out of? Heaven. That's amazing, y'all. And a very loud round horn sound. And all the people who were in the camp trembled. If you have never heard the echo of a shofar blow, it will make the hair on the back of your neck stand up when it's blown right. it is like eerie sounding, like, whoo, it just got real here. I mean, there is something about that shofar when it blows. You're like, that is not a normal trumpet sound. And Moses brought the people out from the camp. What's going on top of the mountain, y'all? Cloud, lightning, thunder, all this stuff's going on. We can see this happening from the camp, which is like a mile away, and we can see the mountain like going nuts all of a sudden. Nothing else is going nuts. The mountain's going nuts. You got me? And the sound, and Moses brought the people out from the camp. I get this image of, y'all, come on, it's okay. Come on. Yeah, come on, come on. Brought them to meet God, and they took their stand at the foot of the mountain, and Mount Sinai was all wrapped in smoke because Yahweh went down on it in the fire. Now, if you look at Jabal Machlah today, this is not a doctored image. This is not a cloud. This is the top of that mountain. Notice the color of the mountain in front of it. Notice the color of the mountain Jabal Machlah. It's burned. Okay? Like Goat Island when we went camping on it one time. It's burned. And Mount Sinai was all wrapped in smoke because Yahweh went down on it in fire. And its smoke went up like the smoke of a smelting furnace. Y'all ever been through Tarrant in Birmingham? They got those furnaces, and it's always going. Every time, even as a little boy, when I went by, that furnace was always, and smoke was coming up out of it. You go by the paper mill sometimes, and you come over the top, coming from Billingsley, and you see the smoke coming out. That's what we're talking about. A smelting furnace. Smoke coming out of the smelting furnace, and the whole mountain trembled. You mean it was like shaking? Well, yeah, that's what the word tremble means. The mountain is like quaking when the thunder hit. You're in our house, and we live, y'all know, a bunch of you have seen where we live. We got that holler right next to our house, and whenever it thunders hard enough, you can literally like feel our house shake as it echoes down that valley. Okay? That's what I get in my mind's eye. Verse 19, and the sound of the ram's horn became louder and louder. What in the world? Moses would speak, and God would answer him with a voice, and all the people behind him are like, holy cow. So, yeah. What in the world is going on here? And Yahweh went down on Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain. You get what's happening? Do you see that literally, I think of it, how many of y'all have seen the movie, the Marvel movie, where the dude comes out of the top of the sky and like the big worm thing comes out through the wormhole and it's like a portal into space? In my mind's eye, the cloud goes all the way up through the Shamayim, the heavens, and it touches as far as the eye can see because God cannot be seen descending into the earth. You see? Huge cloud. Farther than my eye can possibly see the top of. And God is coming down, and as he's coming down, the horns are getting louder and louder. And the shofars just keep blowing. And he descends to the top of the mountain, and Yahweh called Moses. And poor Moses, I gotta go again. Y'all stay here, it's a long walk. Up he goes to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. He was obedient. And Yahweh said to Moses, go down. I just got here. What? Moses, go down. Warn the people, lest they break through to Yahweh to see and many from them fall. He's speaking in third person of himself. Do you see that? That's kind of neat, isn't it? Ma'am? We don't know. We honestly don't know. This is all we're left with. And even the priests who come near Yahweh must consecrate themselves, lest Yahweh break out against them. Ooh. I don't know about y'all, but there's this image of Jesus that has been painted of, he's this Fifth Avenue Jesus that walks around and he never... Matt and I were talking about The Chosen the other day, and we just were so excited about the portrayal of Jesus in The Chosen and how they show the different dynamics of his attitude and his personality. Yahweh is not to be messed with. Do you realize this is the same God we serve now? You get me? He ain't no different, right? Scripture says he's the same today, yesterday. This is still the one we serve. Now, do we have a mediator between us and God? Thank Jesus we do. But God means business. When he shows up, it is time. Lest they break, and Yahweh would break out against them. Now, that alone, with these Israelites who have seen him drown a 600 plus army of charioteers, should have been a wake-up call, right? But do they? We know in Scripture, we can read ahead. And Moses says to Yahweh, the people are not able to go up to Mount Sinai, just as a reminder. Like God needs a reminder. Because you yourself warned us, saying, set limits around the mountain and consecrate it. They're not going to get close, God. Trust me. Your entrance was like crazy cool. Nobody's coming close to this place, dude. And Yahweh said to Moses, go down. Okay, I'll go. And come up. What? What? Hold on a second. Literally, he sends him down the mountain to get Aaron and then tells him to come back up. This is like significant. He's literally climbing up and down. This is happening in days right now, as best we can tell. We don't have exact markers, but it's happening in days as best we can tell right now. So he says, verse 24, go down and come up, you and Aaron with you, and the priest. But the priest must not break through to go up to Yahweh. They can come to the edge of the mountain. They're going to get closer than anybody else, lest Yahweh, me, break out against them again. You see that? And Moses went down to the people and he told them, okay, Moses at one point, whenever he goes up for the second set of commandments, because the first ones are broke, how long's he up there? Like 40 days. The people start getting worried, right? Where's Moses? What's going on with Moses? All this kind of stuff. Moses is usually doing what? He goes up the mountain. God gives him like a few sentences. Okay. He goes back down the mountain. He goes back up the mountain. He comes back down the mountain. Okay. You see why the fear? Let's not take that out of the Scripture. Chapter 20. Notice now who God is speaking to: the priest, Aaron, and Moses. Okay. This is the chapter. Chapter 20 is the 10 Commandments, okay?
So is Aaron and Moses up?
Yes. Yeah, and in Feltboard Sunday School, you were told who only went up? Moses went up. Right? Okay?
Is the mountain like smoking and burning still?
Yes.
They're getting hot?
Because God's still there. We don't know. We know that God can protect from fire because of what? Who in the Bible is protected from fire? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. In the midst of the fire with him, right? And so we don't know. All we know is that the mountain is still, nobody can see the presence of God, and the mountain is on fire, lightning, all that kind of stuff's going on. And God spoke all these words saying, who's he talking to? Aaron and Moses. I am Yahweh your God, who brought you out from the land of Egypt, from the house of slaves. Okay. There shall be for you no other gods before me. No other, the word there is Elohim, that we've studied before. There should be no other gods before me. Why might God have to say this to that people, to us? Why would, if we're the slaves at the bottom of Mount Sinai, because we bring it with us from Egypt. We bring it straight with it. It's just inherited for 430 years. We bring Ra, we bring Heket, we bring all these gods out of Egypt with us. There shall be for you no other gods before me. Do you mean like before you, like in front of you? As a kid, I was questioning these kind of things. I was like, what do you mean? I mean, I can't put this statue in front of this? No. What I'm trying to say is that you can't put the sun god Ra in before me from a worship standpoint. Like, to get to me, you have to go through Ra, or Ra is the upper god and I'm the lower god. No other god comes before me in your life. You shall not make for yourself a divine image with any form that is in the heavens, the Shamayim above, or that is in the earth below, or that is in the water below the earth. Joey and I like this one. What's in the water beneath? Who lives in the water beneath? The Leviathan. The Leviathan lives in the... No other image. You say, Chad, was it really this big a deal? I'm going to take you to the notes down here at the bottom. These are a collection of images from Egypt directly off walls. What do you see right here? The god, the dog god. Okay, Horus. Then what do you see here? You see an Egyptian priest offering a sacrifice to a god. Who do you see here? The gods surrounded by Pharaoh and him being presented gifts. What do you see here? A priest of Egypt. These are the images for 430 years they've had in their mind. Do you see that? That's what God is having to deal with in the Ten Commandments. He is breaking this up in their mind to where he can have this conversation. No other gods that you brought out of Egypt will come before me. You shall not make for yourself one of these images that you're used to, that you've seen on the walls, that you yourself inscribed in the walls because you were an Egyptian slave and you were the stonemason that scribed the image of Horus into the wall. Don't you dare make that image now. You better forget how to draw that. Do you get my drift? Yes, and people do. People in staunch Orthodox religions, this is where people have problems with Catholicism deeply. No people. That's right. That's right. That's right. Same. That is origins. As you look at the Talmud and the Mishnah, which is the oral or the written amplification of these Ten Commandments, that's where you see them bring that out and begin to practice that in Judaism. And so now he says, no other God in the heavens above, on the earth below, or in the water below the earth. There's a bull god, remember? Y'all remember that? The bulls of Bashan, the bull gods. Look at this. Don't even cast that idol. Where in the New Testament do we have a problem with idols? You remember? We studied it together whenever we were in Ephesus. Remember what happened? The goddess Artemis. Great is God Artemis. Remember that? And they took Paul and they dragged him before the council. You see why Paul's got a problem with an image of a god? He's a devout Jew. You will not bow down to them and you will not serve them, because I am Yahweh your God, a jealous God, punishing the guilt of the parents on the children, on the third, and then on the fourth generations of those hating me. You say, that's very unfair, God. He's God. Fair is a completely different idea in his mind compared to ours. This fourth generation, what we know is that what we teach our kids, they carry on, or what we don't teach our kids, they don't carry on. Do you get my drift? So God knows this is going to be a generational issue. And showing loyal love to thousands of generations. Do you see the deliberate dichotomy? We're reading a narrative here, by the way, if you don't know. We're reading a narrative, and there's a parallel that's being deliberately done by the author here, saying, if you don't like God and you don't obey God, the fourth generation of your family. But for those who love God, thousands are within his reach. Do you see the dichotomy there? Thousands of generations of those loving me and those keeping my commandments. Thank God for 1,000 generations now, right? In modern day terms. So verse 7, you shall not misuse the name of Yahweh your God. because Yahweh will not leave unpunished anyone who misuses his name. Now, me growing up in church, misusing the name of the name of God was to say GD, right? Is that not how you were probably taught growing up? Ooh, you use the name of God as the name of the Lord in vain. Is that how it was brought up with me? You know, you get to wagging. You ain't supposed to say that. That's off limits. You say the other words, that one right there, you ain't supposed to say. How might someone, though, misuse the name of God? Think about that for a minute. We're in a slave camp. Yes, in a curse, for sure, but also in a misappropriation, like someone swearing something as if they have control over it. By the power of God, I will not you see? And it's like all of a sudden, like, whoa, what you trying to establish there, Hoss? You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And you trying to tell me that everything's going to be sworn by God. I swear by God that I will not. You get my drift? And it's like, no, you just misappropriated the name of God. Well, God told me that. Did God really tell you that? I can't tell you how many followers of Christ I have met in my life that God, how do you know a prophet is a prophet? If what they say comes true, right? And it measures against the scriptures. I can't tell you how many people of God I have met said, God told me. And it's like, no, God didn't tell you nothing. You telling me exactly what you want to have happen, and you just framing it in religious language to hopefully make me shut up. Honest to goodness, is that really what happens sometimes? Yes, it does, by well-meaning people. I'm not saying that they are deliberately being malicious, but is that misusing the name of God to speak on behalf of God to somebody that you have not been given God's permission, God's ability to speak that into their life? Do you see the misuse? Perhaps also misusing the name of God is as if God has told them something when he has not, but misusing it to create a sense of authority with that in some way. Remember the day of the Sabbath. What Sabbath? Hold on. We're slaves. What did he test us with 30 days ago? The day of rest. You weren't supposed to collect the manna on the day of rest, and there would be enough food left over. So God was reestablishing the day of rest for those Israelites. That was his first reestablishment, right? The first Sabbath was celebrated when? All the way back in Genesis, at creation, on the seventh day. Okay? God is reestablishing the Sabbath. He says, remember the day of the Sabbath to consecrate it. How do I consecrate the Sabbath? How did he just have me consecrate something? He's not used the word consecrate with me before until now. And how did he tell me to get consecrated? Take a bath, wash your clothes. I'm not trying to be juvenile. I'm just saying, what did Scripture say? He said consecrate it. Moses told us what it took to be consecrated. We need to prepare ourselves to come before. Why did we take a bath and wash our clothes? Taking a bath and washing our clothes is not the important part here, y'all. I'm not saying you need to be doing laundry on Sunday, okay, or Saturday night. What I'm saying is that your heart should be preparing on the Sabbath to be before God. That is the key. Not the washing of the clothes, y'all. That's not what's super important here. What's super important is you're preparing to be before God that day. And you are with God that day. Does that make sense? Remember the day to consecrate it. 6 days you will work, and you will do all your work. Don't cut corners. That's literally what he's telling them. You do your work. If we actually know that at one point they get so aggravated with one another and they say, if you don't work, you don't eat. You see what I'm talking about here? Do you think there was apathy and laziness among the slaves? Yes. I'm sure there were some slaves that did not do a good job at doing their work. And other slaves were like, that guy right there doesn't do his job like I do mine. You can't trust him. But the seventh day is a Sabbath for Yahweh your God. You will not do any work, you or your sons or your daughter, your male slave or your female slave. Who's with these people? He even told them when they left, remember? He said, get your aliens that are with you. A slave had a slave. You got my drift? Don't work your animal or your alien who is within your gates of your tent. Because in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens, the Shamayim, and the Eretz, the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. And on the seventh day he rested. Therefore Yahweh blessed, it's called Nuach. That's what rest. And he says, therefore Yahweh blessed the seventh day and consecrated it. Because he rested. Did God need to rest? No. He did it to bring us back to that place. All right. We're going to stop there tonight. That was like a lot. Did y'all see anything new tonight? I'm just curious, did any of that strike you as like, Chad, I never thought about that before? Isn't that interesting? And I had never realized how many times Moses went up and down, up and down, up and down. He knew where that loose rock was that he always stepped on. So, anybody else?
So the elders never actually came to the mountain, or they came first?
They came to the mountain, but they did not go up the mountain. So they did come past the boundary, and they came into the boundary space, but they never went up the mountain that we're told. I don't know. I'll have to research that. I think that's a good question. I haven't thought about that. I don't know. Okay? Somebody else? Any comments, thoughts?
So this was actually the first counter Sabbath presented to the Israelites?
No, because they were supposed to not work 30 days before here, approximately 30 days, when we read that part where he said, don't, on the sixth day, gather twice, because you're going to rest on that seventh day.
Was that actually presented to them as the Sabbath? It was done that way, but it was...
I don't know now that you say that, Wes. I'll have to go back and look because I can't remember right this second. I don't recall. Okay. Any other comments? Good observations, though. Excellent observations. Comments? Hey, yeah.
So obviously the seventh day is Saturday.
Yes.
Because Christians take Sunday.
Yes.
What difference does that make? Or maybe we're talking about like, well, you know what, maybe you have to work on Sunday, so maybe you go on Tuesday,
Yeah.
spending that day resting and
Yeah.
concentrating myself, or whatever. So.
Yeah. We don't. We did. We talked about the Shabbat starting on Friday night, and we don't have a definitive date anymore. That's right, because the calendar's been so jacked with, we don't even know what day it is anymore. To be quite frank, somebody could argue it's Sunday, and or it's Saturday. No, it's Friday night. It's Saturday night. And I'm like, which one? And how many years ago did we establish Saturday night? I'm just asking. Does that make sense? Okay. Did y'all find 2 Peter at all interesting? Captivating to me. Absolutely astounding, that whole mapping that went on there. Yeah.
Was. And that was their whole basis when you read it through that.
Lens.
Yes. I feel like it's almost, once you have a spotlight and you put like a red film over it, it changes the whole look of it. It's like the beginning from the
Yeah. And we skip that so much. We read the New Testament like it stands by itself. And it's like just tonight we read 2 Peter. It's like, how could you read 2 Peter anymore without going to read Exodus first? It's like I can't do the one without the other kind of thing. So, all right. Any prayer requests this week? Your sister? Jan, right? We need to be praying for Jan as she goes through chemo and she is struggling physically. Anybody else?